This podcast is presented by Castrol Edge Euro, the #1 brand recommended by technicians in Europe. Did you know that almost 50% of European vehicles in Canada come factory filled with Edge Euro? Offer better oil. Offer your customer Castrol Edge Euro. Questions? Contact your local auto parts distributor, or Wakefield Territory Sales Manager, or customer service at 1-800-268-5339. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. It's your host, Andrew Ross. The question of affordability is on the minds of many folks in our world right now. Everybody's trying to count their pennies for sure. And there are certainly a right way and a wrong way to do that in business. Are you investing in the right things? Are you spending money the right ways? And when it comes to the automotive professional shop, there's a temptation to just seek ways to reduce your variable costs through a lot of ways. And one of those ways sometimes is what are you paying for parts? I wish with me here today to talk about the right way and the wrong way is Murray Voth from RPM Training. Murray, welcome to the podcast again.
Yeah, hi Andrew, good to be here.
Yeah, we were joking before we came on the air that Andrew Ross. there's an old cliche about those with the Scottish background that were pretty chiselly and cheap. But for my father was always like, look, buy the good stuff, and you're better off to save up and get the good stuff, right? Thanks, Dad, for that piece of advice. I think it served me well. But I'm hearing from my jobber friends out there that that's not always the case, and that some of the shops out there are literally looking for the cheapest part for every job on every occasion. Those of us who have been around the business for a little while know that that's not necessarily the smartest thing for your bottom line at the shop level. Tell us why, Murray. Tell us why.
Well, a couple of things come to mind. First of all, there's a difference between frugal and cheap or understanding value. The Scots have definitely contributed to the modern Western economic system. So anyways, that's a historical thing. But no, the other issue is, one, you have quality issues, which means you're redoing the work for free, probably, or for a small warranty claim amount. But the biggest difference is you're not making the gross profit dollars that you need to make when you use a better quality or higher cost part. So let's just use really simple stuff. For example, using a 50% margin. If I buy a part for $10, I sell it for 20, I make a profit of 10. All right. Now, if I buy a better quality part that's going to last longer and serve the client better, and I pay 15 for it, and I make a 50% margin, I'm going to sell it for $30, and I'm going to actually have $15, right? And then, of course, I can offer a better warranty to the client. I know that it's not going to come back. I know that I don't have to redo the work, right? That's the primary reason is you can't create gross profit dollars using the lowest price stuff.
Right. We used to joke that you pay the phone bill with dollars, not percentages.
Correct. Right? Yeah. And I see people playing that game with the way we measure shops. And I've run across this recently. These folks haven't signed up yet, so fingers crossed I'm going to sign up to 2 or 3 of these people I've reached out in a discovery call. But I've discovered that when I say that our benchmark for parts is 50%, they think to achieve that, they have to buy cheaper. They don't understand that you buy whatever you buy, hopefully a better quality, and you make 50 points above it, regardless of the list price, the jobber price, the whatever. You do that yourself. You make that decision. You don't look for cheaper parts. You actually charge more for it, and then you add value. You differentiate that part to your client, right? And then in addition to that, I've now heard that there's accountants in Canada are teaching their clients to get margin is to look for cheaper stuff.
No.
Yes.
No.
How crazy is that? Like at some point,
I love our accountant friends. We need them desperately. Our bookkeepers and accountants. I don't know where I would be without mine. But my bookkeeper is always very clear. She doesn't know what I do as a business. She doesn't know the ins and outs of it. She can advise me on taxes and on the
Hmm.
numbers and some different things that we can do, but
Yeah.
she doesn't tell me how to run a publishing company. and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
should not. And because we've talked about it, not that
Hmm.
she said, "Oh, I'm giving me advice," but we've talked about what my business is, and she understands that I should know how to run it. Boy, oh boy, and we've heard
Yeah.
this unfortunately before, and you know, I'm just going to say, like, don't let your accountant run your business.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Unless they've got qualifications to do
Hey, there
that.
are exceptions out
Yeah.
there if they are an
Yeah.
expert
Yeah.
in the financial side of running an auto shop.
Yeah.
Absolutely, listen to them and
Yeah.
talk to them, but you make your own decisions
Yeah.
about what
Well,
you do. Do not let them set strategy, just like you don't let the IT department run your company.
yes.
It's a
So,
different one. Sorry, that's a
if
segue
it's
we won't go
okay,
into. But yes, so
yeah.
they're getting advice that they're trusting. And it seems like it makes sense, right? Hey, look, if I'm only at 40% and I need to be at 50% margin, this seems easy. Well, I'll just find parts that cost a few percent less and I'm golden. Except now you've got 50% of less.
Yes.
We're back
Now,
to
if
the
I could
dollars and
set,
percentages thing. So,
yes, if I could set a few fundamental concepts forward, and then we can talk a little bit about why this seems to have raised its ugly head more now, because I think there was a period of time with the jobbers and the shops, there seemed to be going okay, right? 90s, early 2000s. And then as we've progressed, there's been some changes, which I want to address as well. Now, there's times where I got to talk about this concept before, and I've just used my own words, but I've actually researched this and come up with two terminologies. One is, and I don't know why it's this positive, but it's called the cost leadership approach. The nickname for that is the race to the bottom, right?
yeah,
So you
right.
constantly focus on cutting costs. You're constantly hunting for the cheapest wholesale items to undercut your competition. And so, in order to actually create the gross profit dollars you need to pay your fixed expenses and to have a net, you need to have high volume and thin margins. So, there are businesses out there historically that have been around for a long time and have been successful, not necessarily an automotive shop, that do that business. And I think accountants tend to get caught up in cut costs and look for cheaper wholesale, right? Because that's a model that is out there that maybe they're thinking. The other model is called the differentiation strategy, building value, which is a term that I use all the time, is looking for the quality, the superior materials, better design. You're solving a niche problem, better experience. You don't have to wait. You're served better, more friendly. There's more trust. Maybe there's more knowledge, and so you can actually build loyalty with your clients. Whereas in the first model, people will move for what if they're price oriented, they're going to move for $1, right, from one place to the next. And I keep reminding my clients and anybody who's listening that if price was the most important thing, would we have an economy?
Right.
Obviously, enough people in the world are making money off of a differential, right? A differential on what they've purchased and what they sell it for, or what they've paid for labor and what they sell for on the other side of the labor side of things, right? And then a couple of other concepts that are related to this is there seems to be this again, the just a quick review,
Mhm.
this race to the bottom strategy just seems to have hit our industry. It's been there all the time. I've been aware of it all the time. I fell for it in my early years, but there's something about automotive that is unique from maybe a lot of other businesses, right? And that is you don't do what we do. I mean, yes, other businesses, talk to their suppliers, and there are other ones that fall for that trap as well. But and what we haven't actually brought up, Andrew, is people wanting to supply their own parts, which we'll touch on
Yeah,
momentarily
yeah,
here
yeah.
in a second. But this differentiation strategy is we can all buy a dozen eggs for anywhere from $3 to $12, depending on what kind of eggs we want, right, or where they're from or whatever. Yet we'll have to go and pay $12 to $30 for two eggs, two pieces of toast, and a piece of bacon, right? There's a differentiation. We're having somebody cook it for us. Somebody's cleaning up the dishes for us. And somehow this difference between do-it-yourself cooking and do-it-yourself car repair, right, it hasn't crossed over. And that's where this shop owners need to get courageous and take their stand.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I don't see when I on the menu when I buy eggs Benedict or whatever, I don't see the itemized price of the egg and say, I could buy one egg for 50 cents or whatever. So
But
so
but
I don't
but
want
here's
to
the
pay more.
thing,
I don't want
right?
to pay more than 50 cents for that egg. Sort of thing.
We the consumer, for some reason, rarely, if ever does that.
Yeah, they
A
don't do it.
restaurant
They don't do
owner,
it.
coffee shop never has to deal with that. Yet somehow the car owner has there's itemized bills, right? Oh, that brings up a whole nother topic, Andrew. But I think what we need to do is step back a little bit and talk about some of what's going on that's
Yeah,
causing this pressure more recently. If you don't mind, I'll bring up three things
please.
that are happening. One is just economics of Canada, North America and Canada in particular. The 50s, 60s, and 70s were a fantastic time. You could afford a home, you could afford a car. There's been all kinds of inflationary issues, and this is nonpartisan. The way our countries are being run, the gap between the rich and the poor is growing greater. The middle class doesn't have the buying power that it had before. So that's just one overall picture, right? There's more pressure on that. Secondly, the overall cost to operate a shop are going up as much as anything else goes up, but the cost of wages for technicians is finally getting to even close to where it should have been because it's been depressed for many years. So now we have that margin that we have to work at. And then the other thing is online parts availability. I think there's people calling it parts cost transparency. I'm not sure why that term. But you can go and check out Amazon, eBay, you can go to Rock Auto, and many of the other wholesale parts houses have their own online portals that you can buy parts online, right? And this is an area where I think a lot of shop owners and service advisors, for some reason, are under the impression that they have to match that price.
Right.
And that's a really big area that we coach on and work on, right? Is no, you don't have to match that price. That is the price that that person's going to buy it, and they're going to do that job themselves. That's going to the grocery store and buying a dozen eggs and going home and making yourself an omelet. That's what buying that brake rotor and pads from Amazon, that's what that means. I mean, maybe Amazon's not saying that,
No, no.
but in my opinion, right? So if I have a client walking in and saying to me, I can get those parts online for half the price, I'm saying like, okay, perfect. So when you buy them, are you going to do your own brake job? Well, I don't know how to. Well, there you go, sir.
Yeah,
This is what it's going to be at our shop, right? So these are areas that confidence, and I think you used the term courage, right?
courage. You need courage. Yeah, and before we came on, we are talking about some of the human dynamics that go into this, and I do believe that at least a part of this equation is the need to have courage on the front counter to justify and to have that
Mhm.
conversation with a customer who may come with you to you with those concerns as you mentioned and say, hey, like, I can get this stuff for cheaper and I can do this, and might even be not so polite about it. Let's hope not, but they might ask a question or they might make a assertion
Mhm.
about your cost on parts or what it is that you're using, and you need to be prepared to both have the courage and the training to have
Mhm.
that conversation and to justify what you're doing as a business. And, uh, you know, uh, uh, at the same time as, understanding that, you can hear their concerns and you should probably have some options. If somebody says, geez, I don't know that I can afford the 5-year warranty, premium, do you have another option? But it should be an option that you as a shop are
Mhm.
comfortable with offering
Mhm. Yeah.
and can stand behind, even if it's you know I say like a lower expectation of service life on it, but it's still got something. And you're I
Yeah.
mean, people have told me this is not new. When I've asked about well, how bad can some ball joints be? And they're like, well, sometimes they fail as soon as we put the load on and we let it off the lift. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, okay,
There you go.
so
Yeah.
they can, the cheap stuff can be pretty cheap. Um, and the inexpensive, the most inexpensive. And I guess this is the concern that I'm hearing from some, is not that shops are looking for a better price, they're looking for like the absolute cheapest priced product in the market
Oh, I know.
on every job, which means a couple of things for shops out there, and you'll see it. And if you are incentivizing your service advisors, if they're the ones buying your parts, or if it's you as the owner doing the parts
Oh,
purchasing, then you need to think about this too. If you are parts shopping, price shopping for every job, what does that mean to your efficiency and to your focus
yes.
on the job? This is a huge
Yes.
drag on your business that you won't
Hmm.
see. You won't necessarily see it, but you'll see it in your efficiency. You'll see it in your own personal efficiency, and if those parts are more prone to failure, you will see it in your customer satisfaction. You will see it in the
Hmm.
satisfaction of your staff.
Yes.
What
So,
technician out there wants to keep redoing jobs because, quote unquote, you're always buying cheap parts? Like, they don't control the
yeah.
parts purchasing, but they're the ones who end up having to frankly, compensate for the shortcoming of the part because it's probably kind of coming out of their efficiency, and maybe their pay a little bit too. And plus, they're frustrated, right? I mean, these are
Yeah.
things that don't necessarily fall directly to the bottom line, but there are certainly outcomes from installing parts that are not fit for the job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Back to the economics of our country, since already the late 90s, early 2000s, and I just, if just a plug for that other article I wrote about right to repair,
Yeah.
about 30% of Canadians, when you look at the basket of what it takes to live, money and food and, food and housing and transportation, about 30% can't afford a car, technically speaking,
Right.
right? Like if they paid for housing and paid for food and this, all the other stuff, they wouldn't have any money left for a car. But because of some of the distances in our country, they buy a car, maybe there just isn't public transit or whatever. And so these are people that are under pressure. Now, I want to have compassion for these folks. I'm hoping that, in my personal life, we can help some individuals and, with some of the benefits that life has given us and stuff like that. But as a business person, you do need to attract the right type of clientele. And honestly, we need to focus on the 70% whose car fits in the budget and who are looking for value for that car, right? To keep it on the road and keep it going, right? So that's another piece is if you let somebody who's financially challenged or pathologically cheap, beat you up,
There is that too.
or right, then you're going to be battling that whole scenario all day long. All right. Now
Yeah.
back to something you said about, it doesn't have to be the highest quality 5-year warranty. Something else that we teach people is the language that you use. All right. Because the general public is making decisions about everything they buy, and they generally know pretty well what they need, what they're deciding on. But I think when it comes to automotive, they're using the wrong logic. All right. So, for example, I go to the grocery store and I can buy Heinz pork and beans or baked beans, and they're $2.39 a can, right? Or I can buy the yellow no name brand, and they're $1.79 a can, right? I can over time I can discover what I'm going to buy. The yellow one's good enough for me, or do I prefer the other ones, right? That's a decision I make. I can go to Costco and I can buy a pair of jeans for $20, or I can go online and buy a pair of designer jeans for $400, right? And the designer jeans are status based, their image and all kind of stuff like that. And people understand, well, no, I can't afford that or that status, or I'm going to get a knockoff, but they understand that. So one of the challenges that we have to work with is when we begin to use language like these are the best brake pads, these are the best brake rotors, maybe people are hearing that we're trying to sell them status, designer rotors,
Maybe.
and designer pads, as opposed to changing our language to this brand here will stop in 80 meters and have a diagram. Some of your suppliers, jobbers will have pictures to show this. These brake pads under these conditions stop within 80 meters. The next line, which will save you about $100 on the total brake job, they stop in 120 meters. And this cheapest brand that you keep poking me at to get will barely
Slow
stop
you
in 200
down.
meters,
Will slow you down.
right? And so then
I'm kidding,
now,
of course, but yes.
no, I know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But now the person can make a decision. Now they can do like your dad said, you know what? I'll find the $100 and I'm going to buy the best ones because not only will they stop better, but based on the information you've given me, I will probably get 10,000 kilometers more out of those pads,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I
And
mean,
so it's the
that's really
language
what's
that we
at the
use.
core of it is,
Yeah.
and I guess again, this just gets back to what we're talking about courage is having the courage to have that conversation with the customer and say, look, I
Yeah.
know it's a bite. I know you didn't expect to have to do this repair. We really want to make sure that when we do this repair, we're doing it to the best of our ability with the best parts that we'll stand behind. It's not a lot more from the cheapest stuff that you could find on the market. And when you really get right down to it, and we can stand behind it, you can be confident that you'll be having a reliable vehicle for, certain amount of time to come. And that's what you need to get you need this vehicle, Mr. Smith, to get to work every day or every weekday or whatever it
Hmm.
is. Like
Yeah.
one unexpected repair like you're in here for right now, one more of these, and the cost of this part is going to be like not worth it so fast, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
We've done a couple of experiments with our own personal vehicles with my clients. We've priced out had them price out a job for us from their jobber, and then we've gone to the jobber customer facing website for that postal code because it always pricing adjusts by where you live.
right.
And we have found so far on two or three exercises like this that getting the getting the part online and then try to supply it yourself or whatever was anywhere from 10 to maybe 13% savings on the whole brake job.
It's just not enough.
So I'm thinking to myself, when I go to Costco or Best Buy to buy or Staples to buy some electronics, they're generally offering me extended warranty. And generally, if you do the math on it, a lot of it's times it's 10% of the value of the item that you've bought, right? So we as a shop don't charge extra for that. Yes, I guess it's built into the
Yeah,
better
it's built
quality
in, but
stuff,
still,
but now you're getting a 2 year parts and service warranty on those brakes or 3 or whatever you're offering as part of your business model. And so a lot of it is educating ourselves and educating the client in terms of this whole piece. And
yeah,
for everybody listening, if you think you want to play the race to the bottom or you want to start business, uh, not only have I been in business as a shop owner and coaching now for over 21 years, I have never seen a shop go to market with lower prices that survived or stayed at the lower prices
right.
ever.
They shifted or they went away, one way or the other, right?
Like Airdrie, Alberta, 2 years ago, four shops opened up. The young technicians left other places, assumed that they're going to steal all their boss's business. They opened up with $65 an hour in the
Yeah,
marketplace.
yeah,
That's
all of that.
140
Yeah,
to 200. And who knows what the parts conversation was like, but I guarantee you it's the conversation we opened with. And three are gone, and one's up to regular rates.
yeah, yeah. That's it. That's it. It's always great, again, just because it's the conversation and affordability has been part of the conversation for a while. I thought it was really important for us to talk about this and remind people that the race to the bottom is not the road to the top of the mountain. Okay,
I
oh
love
well,
that.
there's that. Okay, so remember, you know, you're going to chase lower priced parts, lower gross margin dollars. You pay your phone bill and your heating bill with dollars, not percentages. Right? You're
Yes.
going to increase your sourcing overhead if you're hunting all over the place. You're not going to get the best deal from anybody, and you're certainly not going to get extra consideration if you are disloyal to everybody or not loyal to anybody because every day that you're buying from somebody different.
Hmm.
You're going to be tying up lift capacity because I can guarantee if you're searching for parts from the cheapest guy, they're going to say,
Hmm.
yeah, you'll have it in 15 minutes, and they won't be there in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, just how it
Yeah.
works. You want it fast, good, or cheap, you know, right? You can't get them all.
You can only get two.
You can only get two, right? You are
Yeah.
likely setting yourself up for higher failure rates on the parts, which is going to
Yeah.
really annoy your technicians, almost as much as having to absorb the warranty labor costs because you're not going to want to pay your guys to redo jobs. They're not going to want to redo them. And you're going to have to figure out a way to get them to meet you in the middle on some of it. And possibly the most important one on this is that if you are chasing the cheapest parts, you're going to have those failures, you're going to have those warranties, and you're going to be eroding your customer trust. And then the wicked cycle of that is then you're going to have to figure out ways to get new customers. And unfortunately, a lot of people then go out with cheaper price for all this stuff too, which is just a bad cycle, race to the bottom, all that. You can change it. All it takes is the decision. Hey, we're not going to do this
Yes.
anymore.
Yeah.
Tell you whoever's buying your parts, we're going to sit down with good suppliers, get a really strong number one, a really strong alternate. Be loyal. They will
Yes.
they will repay that in support, or they should,
Yes.
right?
They
And then
do.
you can get about running your business. And your business is not in buying parts. Your business is fixing cars and pleasing customers, right?
Yes.
I mean, it sounds obvious, and I don't want to make it sound kind of pat, but that's really really the road to success for a good automotive service provider business, right, Murray?
Yes. If I could have one more minute, Andrew, if you guys go and look for one of our latest articles from Indie Garage on I talk about right to repair, but I talk about the effect of the lack of right to repair on the consumer. In there is some research, everyone, that the average Canadian with a car loan has $20,000. No, the average Canadian has $20,000 in car debt. The average loan is around $35,000.
Yeah. The
One
average
way to
new car
help
financing loan is right now $57,000.
$57,000, right? If you truly want to help your friends, your neighbors, your family, your clients, help keep them out of debt by keeping their existing car on the road for another 5 to 10 years using the best quality product and service, you will be profitable. Yes, it will cost them maybe a few $100s or maybe $1,000 a year more to keep that car than maybe they were thinking, but it keeps them out of this perpetual automotive debt. That is a way to save your clients thousands of dollars, never mind $100 on a brake job, by keeping them in those cars for a long time.
All right. Be a good friend to your customers, be a good friend to yourself, good friend to your staff, and a good responsible owner. Stop chasing the cheapest stuff. It's just not
Yeah.
smart. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Murray. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope everybody's having a good summer. And we'll see you next time on the Great.
You're listening to the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast, brought to you by the publishers of Indie Garage and Jobber Nation. Connect with us online at indiegarage.ca and jobbernation.ca, a brand of Chat Integrated Media.